Hey YouTube, this is Pocket Priorities. Welcome to my channel. I wasn't sure where to start with my first video. I have a lot to talk about, a lot of knives, a lot of things that I carry with me, whether it's a multi-tool, like my first knife here, the Victorinox Rucksack. You can see this one's got a little bit of wear on it. Came in over the years. I've actually had to do some repairs on it to get it back from things I had done to it when I was a kid. You can see here, I was not easy on my knife. I think these Victorinox are known for having a Rockwell hardness and around 56, and apparently not a phenomenal toughness if you're going to try and use it as a pry bar, which are the type of things I did as a kid. In fact, it's burnt there on the tip. I think I may have even tried to heat it up to mess with it. I mean, as a kid, you learn the way of the world by messing with it, I suppose. And for me, I had to break a lot of things in order to learn what not to do. And my second knife I ever got here is here for comparison. It's the Eddie Bauer. I guess you'd probably put it, this is the Wenger or the Wenger, depending who you ask. Kind of put it in the category of like a modern tinker, I think. I'm not sure what this model is. I have to go double check, but you'll see the lock is no longer working there. I don't have to depress it in order to close that knife down. But I think what I learned from this knife was the convenience of a very small one for pocket carry. And I think it's fun starting with my original one here. Also a locking knife. Thanks Dad, probably stopped me from, I don't even want to put my hand in front of it, but very strong lock here on these side lock Victorinox, these original models. Probably stopped me from cutting my hand off a couple times there by having the lock on there. You can see this blade's got some good wear on it. The logo there, pretty fun looking at that. I don't know if they still do that the same on these modern ones. I think they may inlay it differently. I mean, it definitely looks different, of course, but I'm not sure about the method, whether that was like carved in. And this now does have like either a plastic or a metal back to it, depending which model you get. This one right here is a modern tinker, very similar. You can see a trend here of things I gravitate towards. I started gravitating towards having more of a Phillips screwdriver on there. If you know the Victorinox and Wenger trade-offs, it's weight and size, the number of layers that you have. It's, do you want a screwdriver or a corkscrew? One of the things that you can get is a corkscrew that has a mini screwdriver in there. If you need something for like your glasses or something along those lines, you can get that. And then number of layers. Do you want scissors or something like a saw? I picked this up as kind of like a modern version of my old rucksack. Let's see if we can get this a little more organized here. So this here's a one-handed opener, and lock here is on the in the liner. It's called a liner lock as opposed to a side lock or a scale lock, depending on who you ask about the other one. This is kind of like a modern equivalent here, where the rucksack, if you're familiar, has a saw. That one saw some use for sure. I'm definitely cut myself up a lot on that. Those jagged edges, if you know these Victorinox, are brutal. It has the two, the can opener and the screwdriver. I think they call it a cap lifter, wire stripper. This one has a small flat head on the other side. And then the corkscrew, looks like at some point I took off the keychain. And the hole punch. There's another name for this, but I forgot it off the top of my head. I'll have to make sure I have that for future reference. It's slipping my mind right now. So when I got back to this, I'd recently restarted collecting knives again. I've gone through like 3 phases. There's these knives I had as a kid, which were really these 2 knives. Let's take these out. These 2 knives I had as a kid. Then I went through a phase where I bought a whole bunch of big 5 knives when they were on sale see if I have some examples here. Where did I put it? Here's an example of one like that. Just a cheapo, either, I don't even know if you can flip that thing. These things are total garbage. But I would like see these and they just felt very technical, and it says like stainless. It's not even like a real, I don't know, maybe that says 440 stainless actually. This one looks like it has some wear on it or something. Maybe, I don't think I even used that much. I mean, it's still pretty sharp, so must have come like, I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Must have come with that kind of rubbed off from the factory. That nice little liner lock here. Some knives like that. I gravitated toward knives like this. If I could find like a nice like wood handle that had some, you know, something kind of cool to it. This thing you can flip open, which is pretty cool given the size. This is like a, maybe you call it a 3-finger. Maybe you call it a 3-finger. It's like a 2.5 maybe. It's pretty small, like by comparison to these guys up here. Probably a 3-finger. And I had a couple more, but I'll have to look around for the others. So, you know, bought a bunch of these cheap kind of flipper knives and some Wengers and stuff. Just to, you know, I always loved knives, and you could get them on sale at best, you know, at Big Five. I was living in California. Now I live up in Washington. You get them at Big Five on sale, and I would just buy them whenever I saw them on sale. Like I was saving money by spending money, if you know what I mean. If you're a collector, you know exactly what I mean. But, you know, since then I've gravitated more towards something along these lines. So when I've gone through a phase 3 now, oh, also part of phase 2, very important because of my roots here in Victorinox and Wenger. I ended up buying this Wenger, which is now, if you know, Wenger was acquired during the during some economic issues when airlines stopped allowing people to bring knives on. So this was one that I was like my user. I had this on my backpack. I got into firearms for a bit and I was learning how to shoot, and this was like my go-to, again, having the screwdriver here. This was just hanging off my backpack just for, you know, a mix of tactical and maybe not tactical use, but like technical use when I was out, had to, you know, fix something or whatever. This was like my little go-to. And the thing I'll point out about Victorinox, which is super interesting to me, this right here is one of my recent everyday carry knives. It's the Victorinox Compact. Is like they have this option for this wonderful mixed multi-tool that if you look at, you know, the original, let's kind of reduce over here and move these over here. This is phase 2. This is phase 1. If you look at these original, you know, kind of, I don't know if you know if these are original or if, what it is, but this adds a whole, this takes up an entire layer to have these 2 tools, right? And the combo gives you the ability to have something else across from it. In this case, the knife is across from it, the blade, and then it gives you a whole layer to do something like scissors. Careful. And these are like a really nice big scissors in the Victorinox Compact. The Victorinox Compact also is kind of unique. Well, not unique, but it's one of the ones that has a pen in there. We won't go into a lot of details on this today, but we'll maybe do another review on the Compact in the future. It has a pen, which some people never, I've heard, never use or never know is there. There's a pin in there. Hook, widely argued to be the most useless tool. I was thinking about trying to, maybe I could grind that into like a small screwdriver somehow. I'll have to do some research on that. But I would just hang this pocket clip here on the outside of my pocket, and found this to be fairly invisible. And this is, the name brings me to the name of the channel, is Pocket Priorities, because I watch a lot of videos, and look, I'm a knife lover like the rest of you. You know, I have grown in phase 3, so this is phase 1. Maybe we'll do it like this. Phase 1, up here at the top. Phase 2. And in phase 3, I've grown to start to like really nice, you know, compact but functional. We're going to do it this way, given the way the camera works. Really nice but functional Victorinox, something I can actually like fit in my pocket, but it is compact enough. Like the contrast to this for me would be this one I keep at my desk is the Explorer. Awesome knife, but you know, 4 layers. What I love about this is you get both the corkscrew and you get a screwdriver in the right place, because we won't do this on today's review, but having a screwdriver in the right place on your multi-tool is important, right? On the back, I've always found that to be hard to get into certain areas, and as a really cool, now that I'm getting a little older, have a kid, really cool and effective, and I've seen magnifying glasses that suck over the years, but really effective magnifying glass. Really great, well-rounded knife. It's got scissors in there. I won't go into this one deeply, but the trade-off with the Victorinox has always been that, you know, do you have those 2 tools? This one does. They made a Yeoman or Yaoman, I don't know how it's pronounced, that generally did what this knife does in 3 layers by having that combo tool. And I'd love to get my hands on one of the original one of those. So if you see one, please let me know. Feel free to comment and get in touch or DM. So I now have gotten into the sort of newer or understanding the, you know, how to reduce that 1 layer by using the combo tool. And then I got back into flipper knives, you know, kind of like I had this phase, and what happened, I lost one from this phase that was kind of like my go-to when I did need to have a flipper knife in my pocket. And, you know, I just went wild and started getting into all these new ones, bearing, you know, these Civivis have bearing-based, super smooth action. So this, you know, gets me in around $50. I'm like, okay, this is cool. D2 steel, very good Rockwell hardness. I've whittled with this knife. It still feels very sharp. It fits in the pocket great, right? It's very thin. You compare this to like a compact, you're talking about a much thinner knife there. Much lighter. We'll do some weights here as well. So phase 3 took me from this into what I currently use as my daily driver, the Benchmade Bug Out. Love the knife. I don't know if I can Spidey flick this at this angle because of the way the camera's sitting in front of me. I can't really see what I'm doing, but anyways, you get the point. Something like a Wee Banter, that one's super easy to Spidey flick. I don't know if I'm the only one, but especially on a Bug Out Mini like this, as an S30V kind of standard Bug Out Mini, I have trouble Spidey flicking this because my finger catches up on the lock, which, as you see, as it moves, if you catch that lock, it'll kind of interrupt the flow. Let's see if I can do it. I know I can. There we go. But that's been amazing. Like, this is 1.5 ounces, super thin compared to even like the Civivi. You can see side by side there, super thin. Oops. And wow, you do not feel this. You can send that one through the wash a bunch of times, but it can take it. I won't recommend washing it, but it has been washed and will be washed more. Beautiful S30V blade, super easy to sharpen. I've just gotten into sharpening. But carrying some knives like this is the Wee Banter, super easy to Spidey flick. This is actually like my favorite. Like, if you're just getting into knives, I feel like this is perhaps from like a size perspective. Oops, of course I say that and then don't see what I'm doing because I got my camera in the way. What a great one to learn different ways to flip open. Like, I normally use my fingernail. I've noticed with a lot of other people's videos, they go like this, and I've never watched a video on how to open a knife, but I assume there's some reason that more people use their finger instead of their fingernail. I do find the fingernail works super effectively on this Wee Banter. But that's over there. I don't want this video to go for too long. I got to do a lot of, you know, I got a lot to talk about here. Over the years, you know, I've gone through these 3 phases. So there was the original when I was a kid, what my parents bought me. I think this one, I may have gotten my grandmother to buy me that one. My son is 3 years old. He's about to meet her for the first time due to the pandemic, which I'm super excited about. Maybe I'll ever buy him a knife. Not for now, of course, but for the future. this phase 2 of kind of getting something for functional use, right? A little 2-layer Wenger in this case, and some fun little flippers. I've got a whole bunch I'll bring out at some point along the way. A lot of the knives from this phase 2 remind me of what, like, one of my favorite EDC and like knives that's out today, which is the Deco 80 20.5. Just an amazing knife, super fidgety. Don't love the blade steel, but we'll get into that on a future conversation. But however, I do feel like for the value, like a lot of people complain about the blade steel on this knife, the value is actually there for me. You know, I do feel like it's such a good heavy knife. The thickness on the blade and everything, the weight in the hand versus like a bug out, for instance, it probably weighs more than twice as much. We can do some weights on future videos, but what an amazing knife. So a lot of the knives I bought in phase 2 here were a lot like this. I've even gravitated towards some kind of like that here in phase 3, like this Civivi, I think this is a Vanguard. Let me just double check. Civivi, oh, this is, yeah, Badlands Vagabond. Don't know it because I don't carry it a lot. I just thought it'd be cool for this video to do a comparison. You'll see why in a second, but this is a Damascus blade. I think they do like a mix. They don't say what it is, but it's like a 8CR MOV or whatever that, you know, Chinese steel is. It's a really good steel, you know, good balanced steel. But cool knife. I just, I'll show you why I'm pulling this out. So this phase 3 and phase 2 has a lot of knives that are kind of black on black like that. Phase 3 has gotten into nicer knives, bearing based. You know, I know Chris Reeve and others do washers on nice knives as well, but I've gotten into that action and that, you know, really nicer knives. Keep these all, sorry, on the screen here. So let me show you why this one's out and why this all relates back to where I started. And that is one of my collector knives. I also have a couple pretty nice knives. Nothing too crazy. I haven't gotten into the $1,000 knives yet, but I'm in the high hundreds, if you will. Which is this beautiful limited edition Victorinox Picnicker, which I've never even handled. It's the closest it's come to seeing air. It's a pear wood with a, and if you know the difference, a real Damasteel blade. There's a difference between Damasteel and Damascus. Damascus is generically any mixed metal, you know, blade like this, but Damasteel is a proprietary, super nice, like kind of like an S35VN quality steel, maybe even like a 20 CV. It's like really solid. I'd have to go do some research on Damasteel and what it is exactly, but just a great knife here. So this one stood out to me. They only made a couple thousand of this. I should have known that coming to this video, but just wanted to get the first one into the channel. But this, you know, beautiful knife here is one of my favorites, and you can see why, right? This is a kind of a modern spin-off. I've got just 2 of them here, but modern spin-offs of my original Victorinox Rucksack, where it all started. I would use this in Cub Scouts back in the day. And, you know, I remember sitting at my desk in my parents' house growing up, you know, lighting it on fire, as you could see, you know, beating the hell out of it. Just a knife that was a total worker for me. That thing is not, it's actually surprisingly sharp still. It's not like super sharp, but it's not terrible, which you can imagine going one of 2 ways for sure. But just a really cool all-around knife. I lost the toothpick there. Still have the tweezers, which is much more useful anyways. And yeah, I thought this is an interesting comparison here with the Damascus blade. Let's open that up there. Sorry, trying to do that at the weird angle. To kind of see this evolution, some of the things that I've liked over the years. I've also, you know, gravitated to some of the Alox Victorinox. Let's maybe get this moved up here. Which, if you're familiar, and this kind of goes back to this like passion I have for the combo tool here. But you know, basically combining those two tools makes this an amazing knife for single layer. This one definitely spent some time in my pocket. What I don't like on this one is it doesn't have a, I mean, you like it in a way, because if you want it in your pocket, it's amazing sitting in your pocket because you do not feel it, but it does not have the keychain, so you can't throw, you know, one of these on it for kind of a deep pocket carry style, which I love this little guy. Key Smart, you can grab those on Amazon for like $5 or something like that, $7. So that's unfortunate because it slips out of your pocket. The thing's so slippery and light and small, you don't know if it's in there or out of there. I've had to slip out of my pocket into couches and chairs and cars and stuff multiple times. Luckily, I've hung on to it, but great. This was like kind of my first, as I was getting back into it. This was like a top 3 along with the Tinker here, something that I was carrying a lot when I got back into it. You know, in conclusion, really it's been a journey for me. I'm excited to start the channel and share my thoughts. This is 30 years of knife experience, which is crazy. I don't know exactly how old I was. I'll have to ask my parents how old I was when I got this. By the way, you can see the case underneath there. I've recently I don't want to say reclaimed, but restored by hand stitching along the edge, because it had the glue around here is just kind of glued or melted together or something like that had gone. So I don't even put it in there. I don't want to mess with it, but I just sort of sit it on there on my display case. This is my OG original knife here. So I wanted to start here. I thought that'd be a fun start for the channel. I was like, where did it all begin? With a couple of these knives that I got when I was very young. And that'll be good context if you continue to watch the channel and subscribe. Please subscribe and like if you either enjoyed this or even found something that I said was compelling. Please feel free to follow, and I'll be starting to send out a lot more content. I got a lot of knives here, folks. You know, whether it's a Chinese-made Kaiser, a Civivi, a nice Benchmade out of Oregon. I love these new Hogue Decas in MagnaCut, and I'm obsessed with MagnaCut. I'm like totally nerding out on it. I got the tactile turn thumb stud. These are, you know, handmade, not handmade, but I guess you'd maybe say that. They're definitely made in the US, and just a beautiful knife. A lot of great reviews I saw on this one and had to get one. Shout out to White Mountain Knives. They have been phenomenal to work with as I've been acquiring more knives in the last few years here. But what a beautiful titanium scale knife. Actually a very similar length. It's a little shorter. It's probably, it's not really quite the same as it to my original, but wow, MagnaCut. Ooh, do not do that. That's what I get for trying to do that first tryout here with the camera right in front of me. I just cannot see what I'm doing. I'm gonna rearrange my camera situation, but beautiful MagnaCut steel blade. Just so obsessed with this. If I, you know, it's like my gentleman's knife here. Could not be a prettier little knife than this guy. Okay, let me do this from a different angle so we don't chop anything off here. I'm not perfect. I've definitely made my mistakes. Here's my most recent one. It's actually from this knife. You can see why. I find this knife just a little small in hand. It's what it does. It serves its purpose, right? But like when I'm flipping it open, it just, there's not a lot to grab, right? It's very narrow. And when you're putting that kind of momentum into it, there's like very little I don't like about this knife. It's like one of my favorite knives by far. But you can see there's just a little, when you're gonna flip it out, it's like, where do I grab to make sure it stays where it should? Actually, you know what? I find this is probably a better knife for the Spidey flick. It actually finger flicks super well. So I think that's what I was forgetting. I'm trying to make the video right now, but finger flicks super well. Of course I say that and then totally botch it, but wow, so nice. So that is a little bit of the history of why this channel exists, those phases I went through. The first phase starting, you know, over 30 years ago. Second phase starting, it was about 15 years ago. But I got really back into knives, and at the time I was actually more into firearms, so this is kind of supporting the firearm hobby. Here's the tactile turn Rockwell thumb stud. It's a Rockwell. I call it the thumb stud, but it's the Rockwell thumb stud model because they had one that didn't have the thumb stud on it. And this is phase 3. So I like to think like long time I've been collecting, but there's been like acquisition periods where I bought a lot more knives, and I'm in one right now. So hope you found the video interesting. Sorry it was so long. I meant to do a short one to start, but I feel like there's just so much context I can talk about here, and I'm looking forward to doing more specific videos, shorter videos, longer videos in the future that dig into some of the things. But that is the history of my knife collecting and what brought me here. Definitely want to give a shout out to White Mountain Knives, DLT Trading. They have been really great to work with the past couple months as I've sort of ramped up my purchases. There are many other great ones out there. Blade Ops is where I got the beautiful 80-20.5 here, but it's Knifereview. I know. Don't worry about it. If you get one in person, you'll get it. This is just a freaking beautiful knife. It is just heavy in hand, even though it's Knifereview. I may upgrade it at some point. I have a bunch of these, so we'll get into that on a whole nother video. This is just one of many. I have the titanium scale one and everything, so we'll get into that. We're going to definitely do a lot of talking about Demco because the fidget factor, one of my favorite builders out there, manufacturers. Yeah, thanks. Please subscribe and make comments. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see, and what you'd like me to focus on. I'll just leave you with one last thing, which is I kind of think about priorities like this. One, is it annoying my pocket? So I have pocket priorities is the name of the channel. Is it annoying me in the pocket? If so, it's probably not going to get carried around a lot. I might throw it in a drawer, on a desk, etc. So is it bothering me in the pockets like my priority? I know that's not for everyone. I also have knives that I just collect as knives, right? Just that's fine, but they're not my everyday carry knives, and they're not things that I'm going to go open my next Amazon package with. I do not use my knife for a living. I'm in cybersecurity. You do not need a knife to be successful in cybersecurity. These are for, functional use around the house. I do things like building around my house. I built a deck this summer, and this is part of actually what happened here. You can see my Wenger got really worn right here, and it really bothered me. I was like, oh man, that's a discontinued knife. I have 2 more of the similar model, and like one of the same model, and one is the Trailblazer, which I think has the corkscrew. But I have 2 more of those in box, luckily, that just happened to buy during phase 2 of my knife collecting. But this thing got worn out during that deck project. I was like, this kind of bothers me. This is a discontinued knife. I gotta go put that on the shelf. And then I've been carrying things like this, and this, and this, and the many other knives that you saw started with that, and this. Actually, it was kind of like this, then this, then this. But usually, just like I'm sitting at my desk most of the day. I just don't want to feel my knife there. This is not the best knife in my hand ergonomically, right? It's actually not bad though at all for a mini. I have like wide hands but skinny fingers, I'd say would be kind of my description. And this thing, it is just really good in the pocket. It's very hard to compete with this in my pocket. Oh, but it doesn't have the right balance. I don't care. It's sitting in my pocket most of the time, right? It gets used for like a few seconds a day. And most of the time it's just in my pocket. I don't want it to bother me. So the mini bug out is like one of my favorites. I don't like love the axis lock that much. It's not bad, but like I actually prefer even though it's not as fidgety or whatever, like probably I just find I kind of want to use the same finger for my lock in my for whatever reason. I guess you do with the axis lock, but you like change the position so significantly. I like the idea of the position being the same where you open it. So I'm doing a one-handed carry, like functionally, and I may actually just grab a lander because it's like a little smaller, might be a little easier in the pocket. Yeah, this one's just really hard to beat. I know it's not the perfect knife. So I have a bunch of Spydercos in the mail. I've avoided them for a long time for some reason. So I'm getting my first Spydercos. Maybe those will be some good ones to review coming up here. So thanks, welcome to the channel, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.